All right, hi. I'm Lauren Freeman, or Lulu Spooky Panda. You can call me Lulu if that's easier. I'm the head of developer feedback on the developer relations team at Roblox. And I have the honor today of welcoming you all to our first Expanding Perspectives breakfast. We're going to kick things off with a panel featuring three talented creators who are here to share their unique perspectives. Could you please join me in a warm welcome for the creators? Hi. Hi. Hello. All right. So I think our goal today, is pretty simple. We're here to celebrate diversity and to learn from one another, and to really foster community among one another. So we're going to have our panel, and then we're going to end with about 20 minutes of networking at the tables. To kick things off, if you could just start with an introduction, maybe let us know your name, your pronouns if you prefer, and maybe what you're known for on Roblox.
My name is B, or B Players. I am a YouTuber and Twitch partnered streamer. I'm known primarily for making YouTube videos on games like Royal High and Dress to Impress, fashion games, things like that. I also make some UGC items and do community stuff for people behind the scenes too. So basically just a lot of things. I feel like a lot of us do a lot of things.
Hi everyone, my name's Anna. I run a clothing company called Kestrel. We create tons of UGC for both studios and brands. And I've been on the platform since 2011, so I also wear a lot of hats and do lots of things.
Hi, I'm Sean, also known as Shawnee G on the platform. I'm known for being a developer of emergency response Liberty County. Been on the platform since 2011, games since 2018, so I'm primarily known just for being a programmer overall.
Thank you so much for your intros. I'm so excited for our conversation today. To start off, I'd like to ask, what is the first experience on Roblox, or if you prefer, maybe an interaction with the community that made you feel a sense of belonging or included in the community?
I would definitely say that starting playing Royal High was a huge factor for me feeling comfortable, because the game has so much diversity and the ability to create your own characters in the way to like design your outfits, design how you dress, design your body models, and so much diversity in that game. I think it's one of the best parts about doing it is there is like a huge queer community around the game too, and that was something I really wanted to focus on when I was creating my content. Being queer myself growing up and seeing like a lack of that representation online was difficult. It makes you feel sometimes like you're not normal, you know? So getting to be around those communities and getting to see people saying like, seeing your content and being able to watch you has helped me to feel comfortable in who I am is such a huge, a massive positive to me. It makes me feel so proud. That's the thing I'm proudest most. I don't think any of the numbers matter to me. Like, it doesn't matter about the amazing, this is amazing, obviously, but it will always be the most amazing part to me is that those people feel comfortable because of what I do. And that game was kind of the catalyst for that. So I would say that playing that game has massively opened my eyes to a world of people and allowed me to feel comfortable in this community. And yeah.
That network effect is so powerful. Like, so you experienced it yourself, and then you wanted to pass it along to others. Thank you so much. Anna?
I would say, and this is a little cheesy, but my game back in 2013, I think Kestrel, being in the role play community, especially where communication is so key, seeing again like a large queer community surrounding like the fashion space was very welcoming, and also a lot of women. I think back in the day, the fashion community was a lot more male dominated. Surprise, surprise. So being able to see a lot of women making it and doing 2D clothing really inspired me to kind of get started as well. So my game definitely was where I felt the most included.
I'd say for me, I guess kind of relates to how I started on Roblox. I walked into a library pretty much and saw a bunch of kids playing on the computers, so naturally I also went over there. So yeah, I just started playing, made a guest account back when that was a big thing, and just kind of got involved within different communities. And I guess also to kind of piggyback off of Anna, somewhat my game as well, like when you're able to make or not make, but kind of structure the community you want, it's pretty awesome that, everyone could get together, role play, do whatever they want. And have overall good experience. So I'd say that really makes at least me feel included, and I'd hope also makes a lot of people feel included as well.
Something I'm getting from this conversation is just the kind of sense of agency that all of you have had to say, if I don't see it, or even if I see it, but just a smaller kind of version of what I would like, diversity on the platform to be, then I'm going to embrace it and help push for more myself.
Yeah, make the spaces you want to be in.
Well, thank you so much for that. How does the diversity of experiences or the community influence your creative process? Each and every one of you has a different role to play on the platform. You're working in different areas. I'm really intrigued to understand how you think about this.
I'd say personally, I guess the overall diversity of the community, like seeing everyone come together, obviously different perspectives and all that. It's interesting because at least specifically for our game, we're a police-focused game, so certain communities maybe weren't very fond of us at a certain time, but it's interesting to see maybe some opinions change, maybe some people get more comfortable in certain aspects. So it's definitely interesting. I know for our game, we try to promote fairness and everything obviously going the right way. So it's interesting to see how people react to that. And even just, from like a little kid level, people just overall generally some will leave any opinion they have behind and just try to have fun generally. So I think that's honestly really awesome to see.
Do you mind expanding a little bit? You mentioned you like to promote fairness. How do you go about doing that?
So in our game, obviously everything is sort of cause and effect based. That say you can't be arrested unless you did some kind of crime, or you can't, I don't know, get your car towed unless maybe you got arrested or something like that. So it's all, and you can't engage in combat unless somebody also wants to engage in combat. So it's kind of like you could have a peaceful mode in a sense, or you could choose to cause mayhem. But whatever you do, just know obviously there's a proper repercussion coming in. It's overall fair for that.
That's awesome.
So with UGC, obviously, I feel like our clothing and what we wear is very tied to our identity. So in creating items that feel diverse and feel like they're representations of others, I always try to maintain that cultural sensitivity and identity sensitivity. And if I'm ever going to tread the water of making an item that feels inclusive, and I'm personally not a part of that community, always making sure to reach out to a couple people and get their ideas, their thoughts. Very recently, I've been working on some Dia de los Muertos UGC for a particular brand partnership that I'm doing. And I am Cuban, not Mexican, so while I'm pretty close to the culture, I want to make sure I'm actually capturing, for example, pan de muerto, which is dead bread. And so just making sure that I am doing a really good job at representing those people if I'm going to be making something that they want to wear. So I reached out to a couple people and made sure I got their thoughts, their opinions, and adjusted accordingly.
Awesome. So listening to the community, listening to feedback is, even if you are from the identity that you're trying to represent, just making sure that it's you're still kind of grounding that in the perspective of the community.
Yep. Just trying to throw a broad blanket, essentially, make sure I'm hearing multiple diverse opinions and not everyone agrees. Where communities are not one, person, so just making sure that everyone feels like they were heard in the creation process, yeah.
And how about you, B?
I would say that inclusion, diversity, and acceptance are some of the most core foundational values that I have when it comes to creating my content. Specifically speaking, I put it into practice, for example, in that I feel like positive daily affirmations are a huge important thing with people. So when I stream, for example, we start all of the streams by me basically forcing my audience to tell me that they're valid, that they're worthy, that they're important. If you ever see one of my stream chats, it's just filled with people repeating after me, because I feel like it's really important that we say those things, because I think the more we say those things and say less negative things about ourselves, the more we will hopefully start to see, that's probably, it is true,
Okay, can we do that right now?
Yeah,
'Cause I love that.
absolutely. Yeah, you can all repeat after me if you like. I usually start by saying, I want everyone to say, I am worthy. So if you'd all like to say, I am worthy.
I am worthy.
And then I say, you are worthy to everybody else.
You are worthy.
And then I am valid.
I am valid.
I am loved.
I am loved.
And I'm supposed to be here.
I'm supposed to be here.
And that's usually what we do at the start of my streams, because I think it's really important.
I got stoned. That was really cool. Thank you for doing that.
Roblox definitely, it was the catalyst that began that. I wouldn't have this community, I wouldn't have this diverse group of people that surround me if it wasn't for Roblox. I made my account when I was 10 years old in 2009, and since then, it's changed the trajectory of my life. So I wouldn't be here being able to do that and making sure people feel like they're important and worthy if it wasn't for that. So I feel like that's what inspired me through Roblox to do that. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. I'm still feeling the feels. I forgot my next question. Can you think of examples currently driving diversity and empowerment on Roblox, and what should we embrace or do more of?
I can start with this one. So, again, my game. Super Socials game. We're working on a really important game where you can essentially model. It's soft launched, so stay tuned for hard launch. And something I really appreciate about the experience is that it is a modeling game, but it is sort of breaking barriers for what is normal for a modeling game. Usually you're provided one body. And what we're trying to do is let players come as themselves. So whether that's like a blocky avatar or a werewolf like Dave wore once, if you want to show up as yourself, you can, and represent yourself the best way possible. And then something I also really like is that we travel to different cities, and each city has sort of like a big moment in that month, and usually tied to something cultural. So I also think that that's a really cool example of like a game that's really trying to do diversity in a big way. And as far as ways maybe we could improve on diversity or having a little bit more of like a feature on Roblox that makes diversity better is alpha hairs. So currently, if you guys don't do hair on UGC, it's kind of like 3D modeled, but an alpha hair would give us the opportunity to create better POC hairs that look more detailed and not as pointy, if you will. So yeah, I think that would be a great feature to see.
Can you just extrapolate a little bit on that, Anna?
Yeah.
So with the pointy hair, it just limits you in the style?
Yeah, so we have about 4,000 trysts to work with, and curly hair and, afros and things like that would take up a lot of trysts to actually achieve a nice, clean curl. So they end up being a little bit more pointy looking, if that makes sense, because we have to sort of sacrifice a little bit of topology. Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
Actually, it's funny that you mentioned that I was actually going to bring up one of the points that personally I feel, at least, obviously I'm not a UGC model or creator, so I don't know too much about it, but it's at least great to see that on UGC you could kind of create almost anything. Obviously there's still room for improvement, because at least, back in the day, back around 2011, at least when I joined, there were so many limited options. You couldn't really, if you kind of wanted to make your character somewhat look like yourself, a lot of the times you really couldn't, but obviously, over the years we've kind of advanced on that, so I'm happy to see that. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the alpha hair you mentioned. Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward, hopefully, to seeing that being possible. And at least another thing that I would hope Roblox would improve on, which actually was addressed a day ago, was supporting more low-end devices. Mainly because obviously when I was growing up, there was a point where I didn't have my own computer, or, we all had that family computer. It was that big dinosaur tower that barely ran anything. So playing any game, you can only play the most basic of games. So for me, at least, that meant no Roblox, no Roblox shooting games, no Roblox, a lot of stuff, just very, very basic hobbies. But just getting more low-end devices on the for more support would be really awesome, because at least my first phone was a Cool Pad, and I don't know if any of you know what that is. I don't even know what that is, but clearly it's obviously not one of the flagship brands. So yeah, so it didn't have a lot of RAM, it didn't have a lot of processing power and all that, so it wasn't optimal to play on. But seeing as Roblox is acknowledging that and hoping to support more of that in the future is really promising, because a lot of lower income families, they can't afford to buy the current gen console or the best phone or whatever it is. So it's awesome to see that even with, maybe not the best hardware, you could still pretty much play almost anything. So that's very promising to see.
I really, really appreciate that, Sean. We've been talking a lot about performance at the, throughout all day yesterday, really, and we have a performance booth here. It's something that's top of mind for us as a company, but it's so interesting to hear, something like device performance can result in constraints in our ability to reach as diverse of an audience as we aspire to. So for all the folks working, diligently on performance in the room, I think, if that resonates with you and incentivizes you to push harder this year for those low-end devices, I really appreciate you mentioning that.
Yeah, no problem.
I think that's a really good point as well to expand on. I think generally speaking, that it's statistically speaking as well, the communities that struggle the most financially are usually minority communities. Society isn't super set up to help minority people. So I feel like supporting those low-end devices is going to just naturally result in more diversity, more diverse people having access to the game. So big shout out to Roblox, because I grew up in a low-income family too, so that's really nice to see that they're really focusing on that. I think expanding as well on the UGC point, it's incredible. It's amazing since the UGC program opened and expanded, just how much diversity we have in terms of like the items in the game, the ability to create a character that looks like yourself. I think honestly, like a lot of the games right now, especially the ones that are just recently cropping up, like Dress to Impress, for example, are doing incredible jobs of opening things like fashion to everyone. I know tons of male friends that I have that are playing fashion games now because of games like Dress to Impress, which I think is a hugely important thing, because I really feel like Roblox is the perfect platform where we say there's no such thing as a boys game or a girls game. It's an experience, and you enjoy it regardless of your gender identity, regardless of who you are, regardless of how you identify. And I think that tons of games right now are just doing an incredible job of doing that. Tons of UGC creators, and obviously it all starts on Roblox. So it's kind of a basic, it's all in one place, and everybody in this room gets to enjoy it just as much as we do. So.
I really appreciate that as well. Like, I have a young daughter at home, and I notice the way that she plays with her friends. There's no like boys and girls games. It's all, but then you reach a point where things start to split. And we have so many genres on so many different types of experiences on the platform where, we all can play together and experience together, and, we can be different than what you encounter in the real world. All right, I think I have, time for one more question, and that's a really good segue, actually, because I'd love to find out, have you ever created content on Roblox that really kind of resonated with an audience that surprised you?
I can, yeah. So I don't typically engage with Roblox in Spanish, if that makes sense. I always played Roblox with the English community, especially living in America. I don't get Spanish servers, for example. And so when I started my UGC journey and I started doing free limiteds especially, I was suddenly flooded with so many Latinos coming to my Discord and speaking in Spanish. And I got so much euphoria from that because I was like, wait, my people. And I started speaking in Spanish with them and talking about UGC with them and getting their feedback on what they wanted. And I was like, whoa, wait, my community, I found you guys. And that was really nice. So I would say that was, a moment where I was really surprised by a community, even though they were a community that I've always belonged to.
Yeah, I mean, similarly, I never really thought that I would grow a community that consists, I would definitely say that my community is super queer, really queer, in a great way though, of course, because it's wonderful. I feel so affirmed all the time by all the people around me. And I think I was really surprised specifically by the amount of trans people in my community. I'm trans myself, so obviously I'm really happy that I can spearhead creating a community for people where they feel that they can be themselves and feel represented. I still, every single day, get emails and messages from people saying things like, you gave me the confidence to tell my parents, or to come out, or feel comfortable in who I am, or or even just be comfortable online because I feel safe there. I really love that I'm able through Roblox, through all the external communities that I have as well outside of that, to be able to create a space where everybody feels like they're welcome. And again, I just wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Roblox. So it's so nice to know that it has such an impact in the real world. I sometimes kind of blows my mind to think that obviously each of those numbers that you see on screen are individual people out there in the world somewhere whose lives have been positively impacted by the message that you're pushing forward, or literally by you just being yourself and just existing. I think that it's so important right now, a pivotal moment for people online and in communities to be their authentic selves and show other people, especially younger people, that that's okay. It's okay to be yourself. And I think I was just really surprised by how quickly such a huge community of queer people started to interact with my stuff. And I guess it was because, like I said, I started doing Roblox by being myself immediately. I was not going to allow anybody else to stop me. So I think, and I hope that that continues to inspire people to do the same.
Thank you so much.
As for our game, at least, I'd say, at least because of the general direction we wanted the game to go, just seeing a lot of kids play the game in general was a bit weird to me because generally the game, it was supposed to be like this private thing that we were just going to keep somewhat to ourselves. We have private communities set up and everything. And just like, yeah, just seeing kids play, it was kind of off-putting, like, oh, you know, I didn't know like younger audiences were interested in this also. So it's like B mentioned, like just seeing the impact that you have on them, since, you know, each number is an actual person. It's just very interesting to see that, you know, people are actually interested in maybe doing a serious role play, interested in actually, you know, maybe wanting to be a firefighter, do all these different things. So like having that impact and giving them a place to, you know, kind of be where they want to be, it's just pretty awesome to see. Like I never expected to reach as many young kids as we have today. So that's awesome.
That's awesome. I think one of the key points that has come across today is like create what you want to see, right? And trust that your audience will follow and sometimes even surprise you in terms of like reaching an even more diverse audience than you anticipated in the first place because it resonates in different ways. I think that's about a wrap. All right. Thank you so much today for your for being here and sharing. We are going to, actually, before we do that, please, a warm round of applause for our panelists. All right, so we are now going to start the second half of our session. We're going to network. So just, I recommend look around. If you know every single person at your table, you may want to do a little shuffle, go to another table. We're just going to get to know each other and kind of continue the conversation with each other. Thank you so much.